Hello, my dear friend. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am very excited that you are here to listen to the story of an incredible founder who has built an amazing company. But besides building an amazing company, he also has an incredible personal story. And there's no doubt in my mind that after you listen to his story, you are going to be a changed person professionally and personally. So one thing I ask of you is that listen to a story to the end, because we talk about everything under the moon and everything under the sun. He has a personal, professional story, but also his personal story is full of hardships and overcoming hardships and triumphs, which made him into the man he is today. So without further ado, please enjoy this conversation with Dean Sysman, CEO and co-founder of Axonius. You and your wife have an incredible story of how each other met. But there's something that each of you start off with. There's a saying that you have to each other, and which essentially became ingrained into your family too. And the saying is, it's how do you make each day count? Yeah. I want to know how you apply that into everything in your life, into your business life, your professional life, how it relates to your values, and how you even bring that into day-to-day decisions and everything else.
Yeah. So I've told this whenever people ask me about why I'm an entrepreneur or my life, and I start by explaining that in my background, my childhood, I had a pretty challenging situation, financially, socially. I always knew that whatever I wanted in life, I would have to earn, and I've been getting a paycheck pretty much since the time I was 12 all the way till now, and that made me very mature very early on in my life, and also made me very independent and ambitious. And I realized that when I go after things and I challenge myself, I get a lot of motivation and fulfillment from it. But over my career, through even the robotics competition, and then the bachelor's degree during high school, and then the Army, my previous startup and Axonius, and everything also I do outside of work, I've realized that if I'm promoting the values that I believe in the world, and I'm creating an impact for things that I care about that are part of my values, that meaning, that fulfillment is bigger for me than any other emotion, whether it's fun or enjoyment or everything. So I'll be willing to go to the ends of the earth for the things that I believe in. And obviously my number one most important thing in life is my family, my wife, my daughter, my family at large. And to me, Axonius, this is how my wife calls it, her adopted kid, right? Like Axonius is another child in our family that we care about. And we want them, to live up to their full potential.
Yeah. You mentioned something interesting. You said you went through a hard childhood. What was hard about it? And
so my dad was an Army guy. And for those who know, if you do an Army career in Israel, you reach the retirement age fairly early. I think it was in his late 30s or early 40s. And he never found what was his second career, right? He sort of went through a lot of different things, a lot of different sort of business or professional failures, and we were never in a good financial place. And I grew up, with that mentality, right? I could never afford anything more than the basics. Even that was, never certain, never guaranteed. And I didn't want my life as an adult to be the same.
So was that realization from a young age that you didn't want it to be the same?
Yeah, of course.
From what age?
As long as I can remember myself, I said I want to be a person whose money is never a dilemma, and I know the only way to do that is by earning it.
Wow. So, wow, as a young kid, that's a lot to take in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Wow. Is that your chip on your shoulder that's still driving you through everything?
It's definitely a part of it. I think that in everything I do, I'm trying to prove how far I can go, mostly for myself, but obviously everything we do in life is in relation to the people around us and the world that we compare ourselves to. So I have this internal motivation to always see how far I can go in everything. And it doesn't matter if it's business, it can be in sports or in health. or in everything. I've done a lot of these weird challenges to discover where my limits are. And I also really love extreme sports. I've broken my leg skateboarding. I've broken my collarbone snowboarding, broke my nose boxing, did skydiving, like everything you can imagine. I love to see how I can challenge myself and find, the next level of growth that I can find in myself.
What's the current challenge you challenge yourself now?
So first of all, Axonius is the biggest challenge, or I'll say is the second. It's my biggest work challenge, but my biggest challenge is being a great father and husband. I think that is the greatest epitome any man can have, is to be an amazing husband and father. And that's a bigger challenge than I think I'll ever face in anything else. Obviously, Axonius is my number one thing in work and in perspective of career, but also health-wise. I do a lot of sports. I'm on this really, really deep journey that I've been on for many years, that I start to really test a lot about my health. Both when I say test, I mean like start to measure it and have like all the coolest science and professionals help me understand those things, but also test like, where are my limits? Where can I get to, right? I've ran a marathon before. I've done all these different other athletic challenges, and it's really bringing out new things in me that I'm really passionate about discovering.
Were there any mental challenges or any challenges they went through that mentally you thought you won't be able to break through? And
yeah, so I feel I have some kind of that feeling, I think, every day. Every day there's something that, at some point my brain says, quit, right? Like the word quit, or I don't want to do this, I can't do this. I think any person who's done a hard workout, regardless of what kind of workout that is, you hear that from your brain, your body, and you just decide to accept that and not let it control you, right? So I think I go through that process every day. And the whole point is to use that as a reminder of what you're doing is meaningful. So
talk to me about walk me through a process. So you have the chatter in your head that's telling you, Dean, give up. Because I have it all the time. Like in
every person, every single person. Yeah.
So what is it like? What's that? So that little voice is chirping in your head saying, give up, give up, give up. It's not for you. And this could mean anything, What do you do?
Imagine what either option would be like. Right. At least that's what I do for myself. That's what really helps me. And by the way, I don't win in everything. I lose every single day in a lot of things. But to me is, that make each day count is, do I go to bed at night and I look at my day and I ask myself, if I die tomorrow, if today was my last day on earth, would I be proud of what I achieved so far? Did I really use the time in a way that fulfills my values, fulfill my way of impacting the world, leaving my footprint on the people who I've touched, the people who cared about me, the people who I've impacted? Would I say, okay, if today's my last day, am I happy about that? And if the answer is no, then I need to change something. I need to do something different. And if the answer is yes, then let's have one more day.
So then what did you ask yourself last night?
A lot of things. So, for example, right now I'm in the process of getting to single-digit body fat percentage. Okay. I used to be obese, by the way, really? When I was a kid. Yeah. Another aspect about my family, both my grandparents are Holocaust survivors, all four. And I grew up in a home that has all the stereotypes of, second generation, third generation. Food is the most important thing in the world. You cannot ever leave any food on your plate. There's no such thing as overeating. You're just building up the reserves or whatever it is. And I have a very unnatural or unhealthy relationship to food. And that made me, especially in high school, I got extremely fat. By the way, it started right after I broke my leg skateboard. I was in a cast for a whole summer, and then I just gained a lot of weight. And I didn't like myself overweight. It's just not fun physically, like you feel much worse. But also when I looked in the mirror, I didn't look like myself. When I was imagining myself, I didn't like what I looked. And I treated like everything I do in life like a hacker, right? Like I tried to, how do I get as much information about this as I can? How do I understand all the technicalities, all the laws of physics and the data and everything, and then manage it? And since then, I've been, tracking, macros. I've been understanding how food applies. And I did a lot of different physical activities, right? I've been working out really consistently, on and off for years, depending on what consistently means. I've done a lot of physical challenges like running a marathon, doing different kinds of extreme sports and physical sports. And right now, one of the challenges I picked for myself is to get down to below 10% body fat. And I took this place here in New York called NYC Performance Lab, not sponsored or anything. I'm just happy, a happy customer. And it's an expensive program where they give you very personalized understanding of your health, your fitness, building up goals. And the coolest thing that I love about them is they have all the most amazing like machinery, digital tools. You can get a DEXA scan, which is like the most cutting edge accuracy for body fat. They have a lot of different ways of measuring your ability to do exercises, your muscular ability, your cardio ability. You do a VO2 max exercise. And actually a lot of stuff I was very happy with where I was, but there's a lot of work to do. And one of the things that I picked was I want to get down to below, single digit body fat percentage. I've made a lot of progress, but I still have a lot to go. And anybody who's gotten to that point, not naturally, like some people are just naturally that way, but people who used to be obese and love to binge, and I love food, and believe me, hunger is not a feeling that is easy for me. Getting down there is really, truly mentally challenging, and that's why I am doing it. I'm not doing it because I want to look better or because any other reason for that metric, but only because it's very hard and it has a lot of benefits. And going through that, like yesterday, you sometimes you have to fight through fatigue, hunger, soreness in your muscles. You still need to do a lot of really hard work. You still have to smile to your kid and your wife and be, attentive and be physically, mentally and physically present. And those all are in combat with each other, right? Over your ability. And if you let any one of them go, I know that I'll be disappointed in how I rose to that challenge. So I do my best to challenge all one of those things.
By the way, you look great. You look absolutely great.
Thank you. You too. Yeah.
Thank you. But when you're talking about being obese as a teenager and a young boy, I felt like my hair prick because I was also as obese as a kid, and I know the challenges that go through then. But as a young kid, you going through the economic pressure and then the social pressure that you mentioned, those that you had, socially challenged, and then going through this, you don't have the language that we have now in knowing how to deal with such, hate towards ourselves. Because the worst thing you could do is hate yourself, and go through that challenge. So to hear what you did then and to hear what you're doing now is just really incredible, inspiring. Like, it's very special.
You. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always say that you always met every founder, no matter what, but mostly the most successful founders always had a troubled childhood. So if I look at any of the top founders I've interviewed, everybody went through either divorce or the parents were divorced, or they only had one parent, or their home was a challenge home, or they didn't have money growing up. And, hearing your story essentially proves the point also again. Like that chip on your shoulder you need in order to build a big company, because anyone could build a company, but to build a big company, you look at Axonius, valued at over $2 billion, hundreds of employees, over $100 million in ARR, you've raised a few $100 million. To do that, it takes a certain perseverance, a certain character type.
Yeah, of course.
And
what I always say is like, I'm also fairly, people of my class, of my age.
How old are you?
I'm 34. I'll be 35 in August. And I don't have a lot of people my age that I can, that they're on the same place in their career path, right? It usually comes later in their life. And they all ask me, hey, should I be a founder? Should I start a company? And I always say the exact same thing. I'm like, no. And then they ask me, well, why did you do it? And I said, because I don't have a choice. And what I explained to them is I wish there was a switch I could turn off and just like go do a nice, comfortable job and enjoy it. And that would be great. But what's different about me, and you could say it's because I'm scarred or whatever. I don't even care if it's a positive or negative connotation.
Oh, it's a positive, by the way.
It's just I'm different in that I can't enjoy just fun and calm and sort of a regular 9-to-5 job or whatever. I have to get up in the morning and know, look, what I'm doing is extremely challenging, but if I'm successful, the impact that we'll make is going to be way bigger than me, right? What I want people to remember is what Axonius did, not what Dean Sysman did, not who I am. I want to create something that's way bigger than I am. And that's the same way I look at being a parent or a husband. I want my family to be something way, way bigger than what my part of it is. Mm-hmm. And to see Axonius go on to do amazing things, to see my daughter go on to do amazing things, like I think that is worthwhile of all the pain and suffering and challenge and uncertainty and pressure in the world. I wouldn't exchange it for anything. So that's what drives me. But again, I wish I could turn it off and not need to live this kind of life. But that's the way it is.
Now, you have a certain, does this intensity ever shut off?
Unfortunately, no. It's funny. When we go on vacations, we usually do something very active, right? We love to go on ski vacations and snowboard or do hiking. But sometimes we end up going on vacation. We just go to like a beach place or like a lake house, and I just go crazy in those places. Like after a day, I'm just like I can't do this anymore. I got to do something. So I'll go to the gym there and like work out, or I'll try and find like some hikers. I'm like I can't just like sit still. And maybe that's something that I will need to figure out somewhere down the line. Like maybe at some age, at some point in life, that will change about me, but I just have always been this way, and it's very. It would be very unexpected for me to be different. Yeah,
I'm gonna have you talk to my wife afterwards because I have the same issue when it comes to beaches or anything.
Yeah.
But you ever like tell the little boy that's in you that went through all these challenges, the financial challenges, because now you're on the opposite end of that. You're in the polar opposite end. You know, Baruch Hashem, thank God, you have a beautiful family. You know, money's not an issue. Right? Hunger's not an issue. None of these things are an issue. Did you ever like tell that little boy within you that, hey, it's okay, we made it? Or is there still that huge, which sounds like you still have that huge hunger and drive to go and accomplish more and do more and do more and do more?
So there's no little boy. I don't think there ever was. I never saw myself that way. Even when I was very young, I was like, look, you can either, cry about the things in life that you don't like. And everybody has things in their life that they don't like, right? There are people who had a much, much worse situation in their childhood than me that would look at my life and say like, wow, I wish I had that. Right. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who, grew up with very little outside problems, but to them, like they had a lot of problems when they were growing up. Everybody faces difficulties in their life. And I always, my way of resolving that was to say, look, you can either cry about what you don't control, or you can, take ownership over your own life and decide that your life is going to be what you make of it. And that's a very independent and mature choice. Mm-hmm. But from the very early days of me remembering myself, that's how I faced everything in my life. I'm like, look, you need to decide whether you can just cry about it or you decide how you want your life to be. So there's no little boy. Like I always feel the same mentality that I've always had. And it doesn't matter if I don't have a lack of money and if I have everything that I need to buy. And it doesn't matter if I've already done a lot of career achievements or whatever. That's that make each day count. That's what that means. I'm getting a gift every single day, which is another day on this planet and another day of life. And it is a gift. There's a lot of people who don't get it, or there's a lot of people who can't live their life the way they want to for a bunch of evil or bad or unfortunate natural reasons. And getting that gift of another day to live the way you want, you should never take for granted. That's at least how I see it. So I'm not gonna just like waste it. I'm gonna make it count. So that to me is how I do it.
Wow. How do you bring that into the company culture of Axonius?
So I think every company has a culture that's set from its leaders, right? Like every organization, every team, every sports team, every political party, every nonprofit, its leaders are the ones who set its culture. And me and Ofri and Evador, we know each other, I think, almost as well as our wives, if not more, right? Like I don't see any way of me getting to know a person better than I know the two of them. And it's because we went through everything together in the army, now in the company. We went through sleepless nights of effortful work, and we went through uncertainty and went through arguments and disagreements and miscommunications, everything you can imagine. And I love those guys as much as I would if they were my brothers, from the same mother. And we share very, very similar values in how we think about what's meaningful in life. What do we want to do as people at work? What do we want to achieve in our careers? And I don't want to speak for them, but I know that their ability to challenge themselves, to grow, to create more impact in the world, that's what drives them every single day as well. So when we think about what we want our company to be, we talk about the mission of growth, right? And investors talk about growth when they talk about revenue growth, right? Or valuation growth. And customers talk about growth when they're able to grow their own career and be successful where they work. So obviously our business has to grow for our customers to grow, and our customers have to grow for our employees to grow. But that's our mission. We want Axonius to be a place where every single person can grow more than any other place that they would go to. And that is the opportunity we want to give to them.
Interesting. It goes back to what you were saying previously, that, which I think most people don't do, is taking ownership of their own life. A lot of people blame it on circumstances, blame it on their parents, blame it on themselves, whatever it may be. They don't take ownership. So to be in a place that essentially guides you, it gives you the ability to take ownership of your own life and take ownership of your own career, is so powerful. So,
I don't see it as powerful. I just see it as the only way to really find meaning in life. At least for me, that was my way. Like life is this random set of events and circumstances. The only way I see how to find meaning in it is by owning it, by deciding what it would be based on my own actions.
I would love to see, if you journal or you have like your own, let's say, vision board, or I would love to see what it says over there.
I don't. I think it's all in my head, right? Like I sort of do this naturally every day. I'm like, hey, why was today meaningful?
Right.
What did I do today? What do I need to change about tomorrow? And obviously, I think about things more than one day out, like especially in business challenges or goals or vision. In Axonius, like the vision that we had from the day we started is still the same thing. Like the deck that I made in 5 minutes before we pitched our first investor, I could still use it to pitch a customer. It might not be great, but it's the same idea. As we had a vision that was decades into the future. But, it all starts with today or tomorrow, right?
What interesting story about, Axonius is that and I think a lot of founders can benefit from listening to this, is that your first POCs and design partners all failed.
Yeah. Terribly, by the way. Yeah.
None of them worked out.
Yeah.
And then finally, one company decided to take that chance on you. But I think I want you to discuss about the aspect of what kept you guys going at that period of time when all the design partnerships were failing. Because essentially, technically, if someone was not as intense as you and determined, they would have shut down. Because 5 failed design partnerships is horrendous.
Yeah. And I'll also say something that is different that most people don't think about outside of the world of cybersecurity, entrepreneurship, or whatever. There are a lot of companies who get started in a journey of taking advantage of an existing market trend, right? Like look at Wiz that I know that I know and admire the founders of Wiz for what they've done. They've done an amazing business achievement that should be celebrated as a historical thing for the country of Israel, cybersecurity, everything. And they came into an existing market trend around cloud security. There were a lot of companies, there was a category, everybody knew the spend. You look at a lot of cybersecurity successful companies, CrowdStrike did the same thing for endpoint protection, Palo Alto did the exact same thing for firewall, right? But we did something very different that's much rarer, which is we created a category. We actually also even killed it, which is interesting if you want to get into that story. But we realized there was a problem in the market that nobody talked about and nobody realized the right way to solve. And everybody sort of accepted the way it is. And we came in and we said, no, this is not the way to do things. And we created a new, completely unmentioned, untalked about way of doing things that when I talk about the impact that's bigger than me, I know that if we wouldn't have done it, by the way, maybe things would still be the way they were before Axonius got started, because who knows, that problem existed more than 10 years before we solved it. And it might have existed 10 more years. But we made this change and we caused that to happen. So going back, so repeat your question just to make sure I answer it fully. But
what kept you going during those hardships of multiple failed design partnerships?
Yeah. So I guess there are two things. One is the belief and the vision and the idea, right? Like it's completely great when people start a company or a startup because they want to make money or they want to grow their career. But I think that in many cases when people start a startup, they have to really believe in the outcome or the impact that that thing will have on the world, because that makes it bigger than them and it helps them still be resilient and face the hardships and adversity that is behind them. And what I saw was that security teams really couldn't do what they needed to do to secure organizations. And then you start to see organizations, healthcare organizations, that couldn't protect people's health or lives, really, because of those cybersecurity implications. You would see, militaries that couldn't protect their people because they weren't able to have those things. Financial services who couldn't help people move funds or give them access. These things, we talk about cyber as if it's just the hackers and the defenders, but these things have real life implications that I saw all the time. And I was like, I don't ever want this to happen. And this is what also was very meaningful about my mission in the Army. I did a lot of cybersecurity work, but I saw the impact of what that means for the country of Israel and how it helped secure the people of Israel. And I was so proud of that. And that's what gave me so much fuel, right? But the other reason was also my personal reason, right? I wanted to show myself that I could do this. And in my previous startup, I was the CTO and co-founder, and that did get acquired but it was not a good result, right? We weren't great at executing. That was also a really bad category that we were in. And after that lesson, I'm like, listen, I just got out of the Army. I never had a real career outside of that. My first startup failed. Here's my second startup where I'm choosing to be the CEO and I have to convince my two friends from the Army to be my co-founders. If this fails, that's it for me, right? I can keep going, I could try again, but let's be honest. If I can't be successful here, then why would I be successful the next time? If I'm taking all the ownership, right? I'm the CEO. It's my idea. It's the co-founders that I know that I told them, join me in doing this. And then I fail again. It's on me. That's the beauty of ownership, right? Which is one of our Axonius values, by the way. If you have ownership, you can control your destiny, but then you have to accept the outcomes because they're all your actions. So I couldn't let myself fail and I couldn't disappoint Ofri and Avador, because they believed in me. They believed in that idea. They believed in that thing. So I had to do everything I could to be successful. So that's, I guess, where the motivation comes from, is wanting the vision to materialize, but also, living up to the promises you gave the people who depended on you.
That's a lot of pressure for a young 20-year-old.
I think it's a lot of pressure for any year-old, right? Like being a founder is a lot of pressure. You're giving people a lot of promises that are only held up by how much they trust you to make those promises happen. And that's where you come in as a leader, right? Like what a leader does is tell people there's a vision that you can get to if you do these things. Mm-hmm. And if they do those things and the vision is not materialized, you failed as a leader. And that's okay. Leaders fail all the time. They make mistakes all the time. I do every single day. But that's what leadership is about, is living up to those promises you give people of what can happen if they do the things that are part of it.
So who holds you accountable? Besides your self-accountability, which you have very strongly, but who else holds you accountable?
The people who I don't want to disappoint. You know, my wife, my daughter, first off, my immediate family, my co-founders, and every single employee of Axonius, even every single shareholder of Axonius, right? You know, the people who work here, this is what I tell my leaders all the time. The people who work here are really smart people, right? Like, it's not like they're working here because it's the only job they can get. They can get a lot of other jobs. So that means by definition, they choose to be here every single day. And if they choose to be here, that's because we're promising them something, right? We're promising them that growth or that career trajectory or that personal fulfillment of doing the things that we do for our customers. If we don't live up to that promise, we can't be surprised that they stop making that choice.
Right. So then at what point did the break for Axonius come?
Yeah, so we went through a bunch of POCs or proof of concepts with customers in the U.S., especially in New York, because this is where I was based, and just the product didn't work. Like we didn't get to that maturity. You know, one of the things that is really, really important when you're trying to have product market fit is to really go early, right? Like there's that saying, if you're not ashamed of your first MVP, it's probably too late. Mm-hmm. And we were ashamed, believe me. We definitely didn't go too late. And in security, right, it's very binary. It's either it works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't work, then it's not valuable because it can't be trusted. And it didn't really work the way it should have. Mm-hmm. And that's just because it was really hard to build it, right? Like we created this new thing. We had this completely new approach nobody ever did before. And we're very technical, very strong people, but you just have to have the amount of investment into it to make it work. And in the first customer, the things were different. I remember I went to Black Hat in August of 2018, 7 years ago, right? We're about a year into the company, and we'd failed a bunch of POCs, and things were bad. Like, you know, people were starting to second guess whether this is possible. I obviously was also worried, but I couldn't show that because, like, I wanted everybody to get confidence from me and get, resilience. So all the wavering I had internally, I was like, put this aside and don't just like those voices, like they're there, but they don't. It doesn't mean that you need to do anything about them. And one POC after the other, one customer after the other, like, look, this is not working for us. And then there was this customer we're doing a POC with for, a few weeks. And I was in Vegas for Black Hat, which was one of the biggest cybersecurity conferences. And I was going to meet the decision maker, the guy who was the guy with the budget. I was going to meet him later that day. And that morning, we had like the wrap-up call with the technical guy on their side who was working with Avador No Free. And there were a lot of issues along the way. Like it was very unclear what he's going to tell us. And he gets on the call, and I remember I was staying in the Luxor, which, if anybody knows, one of the cheapest hotels in Vegas, because we were like trying to make our runway go as long as possible. I was in I got up in that shitty room, and feeling like really, hoping this call goes well. And it was really early because I was in Pacific time and Afrin Avador in Israel, and this guy was on Eastern time zone. And we get on the call, we go through the wrap up, and he just goes and he says the following sentence. He goes, "Is there anything else that your platform can do that I did not see or use?" Wow. And when somebody says that, that's like politically nice. Like, I'm just trying to make sure that when I say this is not valuable for us, nobody's going to tell me, oh, you missed this thing. So we finished that call. I feel miserable. I'm like, man, this is going to suck. And we get close to that meeting in the afternoon. And I was talking to my head of marketing at the time, like, look, he's going to tell us no, it's going to be terrible. And he asked me why. And I say, like, we had all these issues. The product's like barely doing its job. And he goes, like, let's just show him that, right? Like, let's talk to him about that. Show him what were the issues. How do we respond to them, which is the most important part. And also, what is the value that he got? So we made these few slides. And he comes into our much nicer suite that we were using to host customer meetings that I didn't stay in. And he basically comes in and he smiles, and he's like this super nice guy. By the way, one of the most important people in our journey, and I've told him that multiple times. Now he's a CISO for like a really, really important company, and I'm a huge fan of his. And he told me, yeah, look, we get you guys having issues. Like, you're an early stage company. But first of all, you guys, when I had a bug, after 2 days, you guys fixed it. When I talk to other vendors, they tell me which quarter they're going to fix it. So to me, that's real partnership. And second, and he talked about the value that we delivered for them. I've been trying to solve this problem with companies 100 times your size and products 100 times your cost. And I couldn't do 1% of what you guys did in these few weeks. You've already given us more visibility into our environment and unearthed more security gaps that we had than I've ever seen with any other product in my career. And yeah, it's like, it's low maturity, but definitely like, that's valuable to me. So I was like, all right, so do you want to talk about price? And he's like, yeah. And at that moment he said, yeah, sort of everything. I feel like that was the most meaningful like moment in our company's career. Like, it was the change from, we don't know if this is going to work, to, okay, it's just startups, right? Like, it's just growing through the obstacles.
When you repeat the conversation now, it literally feels like you're repeating it word for word, verbatim of how it happened. Like, you're still living it. Right?
Oh, it's a very deeply ingrained memory in my brain for sure. Yeah.
And then what happened next? Tell me, how did like Axonius become to what Axonius is today? Walk me through the whole entire trajectory.
So after that, once we realized the formula for how to make the product show value quickly, it just exploded. It really exploded. Like, every customer we would deploy, like, there were still a lot of issues, don't get me wrong. Like, there were problems left and right in every single place. And by the way, there were very large companies that we tried to make them a customer, but as soon as they saw how like early we were, they're like, guys, you wasted our time. Come back to us. Like, a couple of years later. And many of those companies a couple of years later became very big customers for us, right? But what we did was very, very differentiated. Nobody realized that there was a solution to this problem. There was a really great solution, and there was a new way of doing it. And then we got a lot of traction, and we won a bunch of awards, and we got a lot of great investors, and we started growing like crazy. And then other larger companies started to copy us and started to say the same thing. And the industry started to embrace the category that we created. And everything just went, you talk about the product market fit is a feeling. We had that feeling. And I even remember, after we won the RSA Sandbox, which is like the biggest award you can win as a cybersecurity startup, that the week after, our head of sales told me and my head of marketing, he said, I never think I'd say this ever in my career, but you gotta stop the leads. We can't do these many calls, right? And everything just was on the same trajectory from there.
Wow. So how much money have you raised to date?
I don't even remember the exact number. I think it's like around $500 million, because some of it was also in secondary, some of it was in primary, but a lot. Yeah.
So what number do you have in mind? Like, you keep in mind in general, is it like your valuation? Is it the ARR? Is it where you want to go?
So I really don't care that much about valuation or money raised. I do think those are important business numbers, but they're not a goal or an optimization wise. If anything, I think it's a really bad thing when there are companies who use their valuation as a business advantage. And there are, I'm not going to name anybody because that's not what I do, but it's really obvious that there are companies who promote themselves by look at how high our valuation is. And even sometimes people scratch their head like, why is your, like, and that's what they want you to do. They want you to say, there's something we don't understand about this company that means it's awesome, because otherwise it wouldn't get this high valuation. Right. But many times it's a very dangerous game, and it can actually kill companies, and it can kill, products, and it can kill categories. But sometimes it does work really, really well, right? Like Wiz played that game and it worked fantastically well for them. But because of the value they delivered, I think, you can't disconnect the two. You can't just play the valuation game without matching the value. So, the valuation for us is just a way of continuing to fund the operations and grow. To me, what's really meaningful is obviously the revenue growth. That's the real important metric in startup growth. Mm-hmm. But also it's like the quality of that revenue, right? Because for example, today you see AI companies going from 0 to 100 million an hour in like a year or half a year. Yeah. And that's incredible, by the way. I don't want to diminish that achievement, but also like there's a lot of uncertainty about the quality of that revenue. And when I say quality, I mean, first of all, how retentive is it? Like what's the retention metrics? And Axonius, from the day we started, we have some of the highest retention metrics in the world, right? Like, I don't think we even had our first churn until we were at over 100 customers, right? And even today, when customers churn, it's usually because of like factors, the company gets bankrupt or acquired. It's very, very low percentages you can count on one hand. And second is how much value do those customers really get, right? And we, for example, NPS is a huge number for us. NPS is Net Promoter Score, meaning if you go and ask your customers, how much would you promote this product? Mm-hmm. And you can do that for every product, right? People do it for Peloton, for iPhones, and ours is usually around 80, right? Like it dips a little below, a little above. I don't know of many other products who are at that level, because that scale goes from negative 100 to 100. It's not from 0. It's from a negative to 100 to 100. Some of the best products in the world are like in the 50s, right? Mm-hmm. And we're at the 80s. And if you'll talk to our customers, they will tell you, this changed my way of doing my job. I wish I had this when I started my career. Yeah. Some people even say, I wish I'd thought of this before you guys, because it's so obvious, right? Yeah. So those are the things that I really measure.
Right. Yeah. So then I have to ask you an honest question. You look at Wiz, $32 billion acquisition, tentative, pending. And, if they've been able to accomplish so much, hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue within 2 or 3 years. You look at yourself, a 7-year startup that's like doing the grind and going through everything that I went through to get to where it's at right now. Is there like a certain sense of jealousy that comes up? Like, because there's not many founders, I think, within cybersecurity that have been around for 7 years that are at where you're at. There's only a few. So I'm assuming this has to be something like saying like, how did they get us quicker? How come we didn't quicker? Yeah. Something.
So when we, in 23, we announced we passed 100 million ARR. We're way past the number, obviously, and we're in the hundreds of millions of ARR. And, if and when we go public, like people will see the numbers, we went from 1 million in ARR to 100 million in ARR in 4.5 years. We only know of 2 other companies in cybersecurity have done that faster. That's Wiz, and that's also Abnormal, which is a US cybersecurity company, which is an email security. Mm-hmm. So first of all, to say like, am I jealous? If we're number 3 and you're jealous of number 1, number 2, believe me, you're letting jealousy control your life too much, right? Mm-hmm. Like you should always be, like I said, I'm always measuring myself by, did I make the day count? Did I do everything I could do? And when I look at Wiz, I'm like, I'm happy. Like ani mefargen, the word in Hebrew, like I'm happy that they did so well because first of all, they're people I know. And second, it's great for the industry. It doesn't make us any worse. I think that competition in general is a fantastic thing. It makes you better. It makes you strive higher. The fact that Wiz did that makes you constantly tell yourself, wait, we can do better, right? And by the way, it's okay. Everybody is going through a grind, right? You're saying you're telling us like we're slow when we're the third fastest ever to do it. You have companies who took them a decade plus to get to 100 million ARR. Right. And now they're amazingly large, incredible companies, right? Like take Shopify, which is, I know the example because they're also a Bessemer company like ours, and we were on that graph with them together. It took them, I think, like over 10 years to get to 100 million ARR. Now they're hundreds of billions in market cap, right? Every company has a different story and every company has a different journey of where they get to. But I think it's great to see competition as a way, hey, what can we learn from what they're doing to be better?
Right.
And that should be motivating and empowering, not like, it's like the 4-minute mile, right? That's sort of like, it took humans thousands of years for a human to be able to do a 4-minute mile. And once one guy did it, then hundreds of people did it that same year. Why? Just because you knew it's possible. That's why competition is a great thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you use it as an empowerment.
Of course. Yeah. Well, you can choose you can choose how you want to see it, right? You can be depressed, you can say it's unfair or like, be jealous or it's like they're lucky, I'm unlucky. Or you can choose to take from it what makes you stronger, you better. So why, that's the only way I see it.
Right. In your first few years, did you do the sales?
Of course. Yeah. I think at least in B2B sales or like in B2B software, the CEO and founder has to do the first few sales, has to be involved with it. We actually had that sale that I told you about. The purchase order was collected by our very first head of sales that we hired, but I was involved in that. Like I did the pitch. I was also the SE in the beginning. Like I was the one doing the POCs until Ofri and Avador got to that level. And I'm still involved in a lot of, if you're not at the front lines, there's this thing in the Israeli army for officers, right? Like officers lead up, at the front, right? Like you don't, give orders from the back. You have to lead from the front. And I'm a big believer in that, not just in physical battle, but also in life. If you want to lead someone, you have to show them that you're going to do everything that you're asking them to do.
Right.
And you got to lead by example. So I still do every single thing in the company that I can, whether it's talk to a customer, whether it's do a demo, whether it's deciding on a product feature. I can't do everything, but it's really important for me to still do that.
Right. So then how do you scale yourself up through the process of building this company from just your two co-founders to now, how many employees?
We're getting close to 700, I think.
Oh, wow.
We're past 700, yeah.
So 700 is way different than obviously having 3.
Yeah.
From a culture perspective, everything else, managing so many different personalities. You have an office here, office in Tel Aviv. How did you scale yourself up?
Yeah, so you have to create leverage, right? And you can create leverage either through technology or through people, right? So the most obvious leverage is through people. You start to hire, more and more senior leaders under you. And that's one of the biggest aspects of how well your company is. Like, I think, by the way, that the most important thing a CEO does is executive hiring. And by the way, I hate to do that. Like I hate the whole song and dance of recruiting and it's super painful for me because it's like so unnatural, right? Like you're trying to, it's sort of like dating. You're like trying to figure this person out while still being like very friendly and open. And this other person's trying to figure you out. I hate it, but I think it's one of the, if not the most impactful thing a CEO can do is like, does he hire? And that's also true for every other leader, right? Like the people who you hire are usually more important than your decisions. And I think it's a Francis Ford Coppola quote that he says, almost all of my directing I do in my casting, right? Like, everything else is sort of like, you're just like making minor touches.
Right.
The people who you pick are the most impactful thing you do. So that's one, creating leverage. But the second is through technology. Another great analogy that I love is there was, I forget who talked about it, but it's like an eagle, right? So like, how does an eagle live their life, right? Mm-hmm. They soar very, very high, right? And they cover a lot of ground, of visibility, but they see things from a very high level. So when they want to catch their prey, when they think it's important to get down to the details, they dive really, really close to the ground. Like they might, pick a rodent off the floor. They go from, thousands of feet up in the air all the way to inches off the ground. Right. But then once they, pick their target and they did what they needed to do, they saw the details from the ground floor, then they go back up. And I do the same. When there are things that are really important for me to understand the details, or there are projects in the company, I will dive all the way down to the details. And the funny part is that at our size, people get freaked out about it. Mm-hmm. Like I will go to like an IC and I'll tell them, hey, what's going on here? Like, give me the details on this customer deployment, or give me the details on this product feature. Or like, why is the CEO asking me this question? Like, is something wrong here? Or like, I'm like, no, I'm trying to really understand it from a few inches off the ground. But once I'm done and I understand that, I can go back to that, few thousand feet view and see how it all ties in together.
Right. Are people at, let's say, an SDR, AE, which, people that are focusing, I wouldn't call them, God forbid, lower employees, but like people that are a few levels below executive management, are they afraid to give you feedback when you go that low?
So I hope not. Okay. And you have to constantly reinforce that. That's right. A huge aspect of culture. What do people think they can say, and what will people be encouraged on, and what will be discouraged, right? And we try a lot. One of our other values we call the relentless pursuit of the truth, right? And it's that long because it has to be. You can talk about the truth all you want, but the truth, there are two really important factors to it. One, right. It's constantly changing. You can never stop chasing it. Right. And secondly, there's a lot of human feelings that get in the way of truth, right? Like people think that if they make a mistake, that's bad and they shouldn't talk about it. Or if they think they're going to criticize somebody else, that's going to lead to conflict, and that's not a good thing. And you have to create the cultural acceptance of how to do those things. Because if you don't talk about the mistakes you do, and you don't talk about what's not going well, what is going well, you will never be able to adjust fast enough in a high growth company. Right. Like that's the nature of high growth. In high growth, there's always stuff that are not working. Like by definition, there's always something broken. And the longer you don't fix that broken thing, the worse it's going to get. And the only way to fix that broken thing is by somebody talking about it. So you really have to create that feeling that it's encouraged to talk about problems and not discouraged.
And how's that going?
It's relentless. It's a relentless pursuit. Yeah.
It's, you could tie that, so clearly into the other value of ownership. So it has to be the pursuit. You have to have ownership. And then to tie it in together with ownership, there has to be the relentless pursuit of truth. When you had those together, what equals comes out what?
I think so.
Now, what will come out if you tie the two together? What's the outcome?
Of tying ownership and the relentless pursuit of the truth is that people put their own needs aside and see the bigger impact is more important. Because if you don't care about your own, what other people think about you, or hurting other people's feelings, obviously those things are important. I would never want to make somebody feel bad. But if you understand that those risks are always going to be there, but you have to say something, then it works really well together, right? And another one of our values is team, right? And we constantly say we win or lose as a team. And something else that it always is surreal to me is like somebody, either an employee or a customer, by the way, will come and say, Dean, thank you for what you've done and what you've built. And I'll say, why are you thanking me? I'm like, that's not me. I didn't do this. There are more, past employees included. There are hundreds of people who have done what you're thanking for.
Right.
I can thank them too on your behalf, but it's not me. I'm just one person. Right. And I have a job title that is something that people love to think or talk about, but I don't think it's more meaningful than any other job title because it takes all of us to be able to do that.
Yeah, I firmly agree. Yeah, I'm actually curious, like, to know, like, walk me through your day. What's your day look like? Because, and after you get through that, I also want to know, like, you're very meticulous and you track your health. What other, like, I guess, habits or, and we'll get into your values in a second, but like other stuff are you very careful about for your own personal growth to you grow as individual being?
Yeah. Where do I start? So, I really try and focus my time on the things that are really meaningful and are long-term sustainable, right? So I really try and measure my time and understand where am I spending my time. When I'm at work, can I really be fully focused on work and do the things that I need to do? And how much leverage do I have, right? Okay. Will I be able, if I'm on a call, do I do emails at the same time, or do I really need to be 100% focused on this call? Or can I do this call while I'm walking outside or working out? Or, for example, I have a lot of reading. Like, I read a lot from a lot of articles and blogs of people talking about, stuff in cybersecurity or stuff in startup business or public markets. From every single customer interaction we do at Axonius is summarized in an email. Like, literally, there's a rule. If you talk to a customer, you interact with a customer, you have to summarize in like Salesforce chatter posts to say what happened. So we have the context for next time we talk to this customer. I've read every single one from the day we started the company. Literally every single one. You know where I do most of that? It's like maybe hilarious, but in the bathroom. Like, even when I go to the bathroom, even if it's a minute, while I'm doing that, I'm reading at least 2-3 chatter posts. And that allows me, and obviously I read that outside the bathroom too, but it's just everybody makes fun of me that I do that. But like, I can't waste a minute of like just daydreaming or doing those things because I'll feel like I'm behind the curve on knowing what's happening and making the right decisions. But then, having said all that, you have to have those moments in your day and also in your life where your mind is not racing, right? And I think when you're with your family, that's the most important part. And you have to really mentally, and this is extremely hard, right? By the way, I don't know how many people actually talk about this, but it's easier for me to do things that people think are very like hard or anxiety driven, right? Like, I'll talk to a customer on our biggest deal, or I'll talk to an investor on the biggest fundraise, or I'll speak in front of 1,000 people. All those things or I'll be at a crazy calorie deficit. I've even fasted for 10 days. Like, I've done that just to see what it feels like, or run a marathon. All those things I think are much easier to me than switching my mind like that and stop thinking about work, and for a minute play, a puzzle or a game or read a book to Elsa, my daughter, and really be present in that moment. That's the hardest thing that I have to do as a founder, but it's also the most important thing, because otherwise I am not really doing my part as a husband and as a father, right? So my day is sort of this like endless cycle of intensity and crazy mental load, and other periods of time where I'm trying, like a Buddhist monk, trying to clear my mind and be really focused on the present. And that's, I don't know if that was what you were asking me about, but
I want to know how tachlis, how you do it.
Just like your previous question, how do you get through difficulty? It's about thinking, what's going to happen if I do this, or what's going to happen if I do the other? And I know what a broken family looks like, because there were a lot of things about my family that were broken when I grew up as a child. And I promised to myself every day when I was younger, I am never going to have a family like that. I'm going to do everything in my power to make my family happy and safe and enjoy life as much as I can and protect them and, give them everything they need. I would be completely disappointed in my life, regardless of what I achieve in business, if that doesn't happen. So that's the stakes, right? Like, and then I see my own feelings as something super selfish and like not important, right? Like, oh, Dean, it's all hard to stop thinking about work. Oh boy, like, it's your daughter. She's only this day that you're spending now with her, you're never getting that day back.
Yeah.
You have other days, but this is the only day that's this day that you are going to get to spend with her. And when you die tomorrow, potentially, are you going to be disappointed with how you spent it? So that's what helps me fight through the effort of trying to be present. By the way, I don't win all the time. There are days I lose. And there are days I'm telling myself, man, I didn't make this day count, and I got to do better tomorrow. Yeah.
Wow. Do you think about legacy a lot?
So I don't have the fortune of believing there's an afterlife. Maybe I'll change my mind at some point in life, but I'm just like a very cynical, pragmatic person. And I think that when you die, and that's it. And I wish I'm wrong, but that's what I think so far. And legacy to me is more the impact that you're leaving. I don't really care what people will say about me or what my name means. I care about what the people who I care about will say that I was in their life. Was I a positive impact on their life? Did I help them grow? Did I help them be whatever version of themselves that they wanted to be? That's what drives me. So if you're talking about legacy, that's the thing I care about.
That's what I care about, because eventually, after 120 years, we won't be here anymore, but our kids will be here.
Yeah,
and our kids will be talking to their kids and their grandkids, and they'll be talking about Dean. They'll be talking about Ephraim, and like the question is, what do you want? What do we want them to think of us? The story that they're going to tell them.
Yeah,
and like hearing your story and talking about like ownership. And how do you make every day the best day? And did I do my best today? Did I show up everywhere? And did I show up positive? Like you said, you also can never get back another day. Like, so if my daughter woke up this morning and I was like, I want to go back to bed, but she wants to play, she'll remember that eventually one day.
Yeah.
So you want to give them that positive memory system, I guess, like remembering of who we are.
I just want her to be happy and proud of her dad being a good dad. That's all I want. Yeah. And that's not very far from being easy, but it's worth whatever is required. Yeah.
How do you think about charity?
I think charity is an amazing thing, and we try and do a lot of charity, both me and my family and in Axonius. And I'm a huge believer in capitalism, right? We talked about competition, a huge believer in free market capitalism. I think has its flaws, but it's one of the best things that humans have ever done, which is give people the ability to do whatever they want. And then whoever creates more value ends up reaping the benefits. Right. I couldn't be a bigger believer in that concept, and it's implemented in a certain way in capitalism, but it's the best way so far. And I'm a huge believer in that. So the reason I'm saying that is because I think charity is a great thing to do, but I also think that it can only lead to so much, right? It can only lead to a certain level of benefit. And the real, I think, sustainable benefits to society, to humans, they only happen through businesses. Or major government changes or things like that. Only organizations who are measured by their ability to create, wealth and use wealth, they're the only ones who can make really sustainable change. Now, don't get me wrong, right? Like Bill Gates giving billions of dollars to remove diseases from the world, that's extremely sustainable, right? But he also says, like, look, when he's gone, or the year that he said his foundation is going to stop working, it's going to stop. And I think charity, the biggest benefactor of charity, by the way, is the person that's giving.
Yeah.
And that's how I see charity, right? When I give, whether it's in my own personal life or through our family, and we try and do that a lot. And both, by the way, financially and personally, right? Like we go and we volunteer and we try and find ways to do volunteering, because if you don't do it through your own work, sometimes you forget what it means. And we try and do that in Axonius a lot, right? Like we have a lot of charitable causes. We give a lot of money in disasters from, obviously October 7th and everything that's happened in Israel since or before. We gave money to the people in Ukraine when this thing started. We gave money to a lot of causes in the US for a bunch of reasons. Every year at 9/11, right? We're a New York headquarter company. Every year 9/11, we take everybody from our company who wants to volunteer, and we pack meals for needy families. And we've done that several years. And my wife and our daughter has joined me in doing that every single year. So when I do that, I think that the person who gains the most is the person giving. That's the beauty of charity. You get a better feeling doing that than almost anything else you could do for the same amount of effort or money or whatever it is.
Yeah, I firmly agree. Charity is the most beautiful thing. It's also the most selfish thing, in the sense the giver is receiving more back.
Yeah.
What do you want your last message to be to anybody listening to this?
I don't know.
I mean, you've laid everything out on the table already. But
I don't know if I have a message. I will just say, like, if you want an employer that focuses on your growth, Axonius is one of the best places to do it. If you're an IT or security practitioner who wants help understanding their organization, making it secure, and growing your career, and giving us the opportunity to make you a hero in your organization and joining some of the biggest organizations in the world, then obviously talk to us as a customer. And I also do a lot of investing, and I have a bunch of unicorns that I've invested in their seed round, and I don't think I contribute a lot to them, some of them more than others. But I just love to be a part of their journey, right? Again, it's selfish. Like it's something that I might make money on, but that's not why I do it. So if you're founders who think I can help you and I would benefit being a part of your journey, also I'd love to talk to you. So those are the three ways that you should contact either Axonius or me. And thank you for letting me talk for a long time and say a bunch of stories.
You're welcome. And, I know plenty of people are going to benefit from this. But, on high level, without reflecting yet and listening to this again, what I've been able to take out right now is, one is have extreme ownership over everything you do, right? End of the day, you are the only person that controls your destiny. You're the only person that gets to decide if something affects you or doesn't affect you. You're the only person that's able to choose how your day is going to go. So that's number one. Number two is, be relentlessly honest. Always say the truth. Don't sugarcoat it. Yes, someone might get hurt, the way how it's said, but it has to make sure, obviously, it's from a good place. But that's another thing. The other thing is, you actually inspire me. Like, I really got to get into fitness at a whole nother level, like you are. Like, I got to measure everything and do that. But I really appreciate you coming on and being vulnerable, sharing your story. Trusting me to hear your story and being able to record this and share it with thousands of people, because I have no doubt that's going to impact a lot of people. And I think for yourself, as you go about, the rest of the journey of Axonius, and I'm sure there'll probably be another startup after this, because you are young, you're going to impact a lot of people, because essentially that's all ties in. We're here in this world to create a difference, to make an impact, and to inspire people. And there's no doubt in my mind that you're going to go on to continue to do that. And I want to wish you a lot of bracha, hatzlacha, success in everything that you do. And I thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, what you're doing is also amazing, right? Bringing inspiring stories, helping people learn, helping people, see things in a bigger way or in a more informed way about what they can be. So you're doing an amazing thing as well, and I really appreciate you bringing me to do this.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this conversation till the end. I hope you took something that you're able to apply to your personal or professional life today. Now, I have one request from you. That is, please subscribe and leave a review. And I hope to see you back next time with a new episode with an incredible new founder. Have a blessed, blessed day.